Oh man, I was sitting there talking about we was talking about a whole bunch of stuff that went down, man. It was super crazy. Man, a lot of y'all don't remember the early 90s, but there was the movie Dick Tracy that came out, and we had the military was given everybody know my stepdad's military, so they were giving out free T-shirts, and the T-shirts with Dick Tracy on them, and they had like a movie ticket on the shirts, and everybody who had the shirts, they would go and see the movie Dick Tracy and all that. It's like admit one, so everybody who had the shirts can go. Now the movie bombed so much at the box office, they ended up giving like they didn't even give away all the shirts for people to go see the movie for free in the military. People didn't even want to go. It was that bad. So they were stuck with like all these extra shirts of people like this is for free. People didn't even want to watch Dick Tracy for free. I love Dick Tracy, but like it was hilarious because I watch it for different reasons. But still, they didn't want to go see a free movie. Oh yeah, it was crazy. So my stepdad came in with a whole box of these doggone shirts. And we were talking about that, and that got us thinking about Arsenio Hall and Madonna, because Madonna was promoting the Dick her she was in Dick Tracy, and she went on Arsenio Hall's show to promote the movie. And Arsenio Hall, I forgot. Y'all think Wendy Williams or something? Arsenio Hall show was he would find a way to weasel out information and trash people on this show and get petty with people. Man, now Arsenio really got his break here in Chicago. Like a lot of people saw him, like my mom, them. My mom would go out to the clubs and all that stuff, so they go to the comedy shows and all her friends. So they would run into Arsenio's and all these people and in the 80s and 90s. I was too young, so I didn't run into a lot of them. But could nobody say his name. So that's how I will remember Arsenio because it ain't too many Arsenios walking around. So if somebody said Arsenio, it's like, oh man, okay, yeah, it was that dude then. So when you see the name, because can nobody was like, oh, he was funny. I can't remember the name. The tall, skinny, goofy guy. It's like, oh yeah. So it was Arsenio Hall. But anyway, back to the story. He had Madonna on the show. And when he had Madonna on the show, and the show was going great, they were talking about her music and talking about her, Madonna, this and that. And right now it's on YouTube because we went and watched it again and we cracked up laughing. But what people don't realize is what happened after the fact. The interview was going well, then he started going into her private life and putting her on blast, talking about the co-star Wayne Beatty, and then she flipped it and started asking him about his private life and started asking him about, she started interviewing him basically and started flipping the questions around. When it gets too much into her personal life, she started asking questions to him and started dogging him, about Paula. He started bringing up Paula Abdul, and it's like, how does it feel to get dumped for James Stamos? She dumps you for James Stamos. How does that feel? To get dumped? Look, I bought you a gold ring, so you'll remember that when you got Paul on the show. They went to the Grammys and she didn't go with Arsenio, and everybody's like, "What is this?" Because that was the thing. Arsenio was bigger than life because they did Coming to America together, and Coming to America was out. So when the show was on at that time, it was like the biggest thing going, and they was talking about doing a sequel even back then because it was so successful. Now, here's the problem. She never hit the off button. And she's like, "Man, I'm tearing you up." And he's like, "You ain't telling me up, you dogging her." So she's like, "I don't know where to get at you at. That's the only way I know to get back at you." And, for all the stuff you was doing. She's like, "Oh, I could go with Eddie Murphy. Yeah, I heard you and Eddie Murphy was doing some stuff." She said, "That's the rumor." He's like, "That's the rumor?" He's like, "Okay." He was like, "Now I could bring up Sandra Burkhart." There's rumors about you and Sandra Burkhart. So now they both taking shots at each other on the show. The show turned into them taking shots, and they going to commercial. They coming back. So on the commercials, they are really like, what are we doing? Like what are you doing? Like, okay, you landed your blows. Now let's get back to the show. Then we could go through this segment. Or we gonna continuously do this because like Arsenio's still going there. So she was like, "Yeah, if you was one of my dancers, and this is what blew out of all the comments, he was cool with everything until she said you couldn't wear that hairstyle like that." He's like, "What?" He's like, "Your hairstyle, you can't wear your hair like that if you was in my one of my dancers." He was like, "What, a fade like this?" She's like, "No, you couldn't wear that." He's like, "Why?" "It's tired." And he was like, "What am I supposed to do? Wear something like Warren Beatty?" Not. So anyway, he was hot. He did his thing, played the role. Once they cut, he went to the back. He told her off. He's like, "First, I will never have to work for you because I have just as much money as you have. Number two, I've seen your dances and I'm nothing like them. They work for you. I work with you." Okay? And number three is you want to know, you want to be black when you was a kid or something, but you are not black. So don't try to understand blackness, okay? It's not your place to try to dictate black hair or fashion or anything like that. You have borrowed our sound, but you don't have any of our sensibilities. So don't make the attempt to tell me how I should look. So he was real mad when they got to the back. And she was like, "Well, I was just doing it because you was coming at me off, wow, and all this stuff." So her publicist and all that was like, "We're never doing this show again." Because then she talked about the furniture too. Like, "Ugh, this looks like something you find on the street on the show." So her publicist and everybody else, they were mad. Arsenio Hall and everybody. So it was like Madonna will never be back on this show ever again. So that became a very big problem. Now, once this was like out in the world, because there was no social media. If this was social media, they would have crucified Arsenio Hall. But because there's no social media, it was like one of the highest rated Arsenio Hall shows, period. Is when he had is when he had Madonna on there. The highest rated show. is when he had Madonna on there. And Spike Lee and everybody else came out the woolwork and decided they wanted to attack Arsenio Hall. The NAACP tried to extort him to write a $40,000 check, and when he wouldn't do it, then they tried to say make all this stuff up about him. So they basically was trying to extort him and saying, "Oh well, he's an Uncle Tom," and they used Spike Lee to get involved in it. All of this after the Madonna situation, it's you start to see how things start to play out. And he was like, "Look, man, I've done every job in the world, man. I've seen every hustle there is, and this game here is crazy. And all of these things are going on, and I don't want no parts of it, man." Now, Barbara Walters tried to come interview him, and he wanted to do a sit down, but Barbara wanted to come to his house. So she's like, "No, I want to come to your house. It makes it personal." He's like, "Well, you ain't coming to my house." So Barbara Walters was upset with Arsenio Hall because he wouldn't let her come in his home. He was like, let's do the interview at your house. Let's go to Barbara's. But I'm not going to let you film in my house. Bringing in camera crews and all these other people all in my house. He's like, "I know what it's really about. They want to do the interview in my house so they can find any little thing they can find and make a story around. And I'm not for that. I know what they're getting ready to get into and all this, so I'm just wasn't really interested in a Barbara Walters in my home special. So he turned that down, so he had an enemy there. So these were people using their power who was attached to Madonna. So all these people got in the way. And Spike Lee and who had called Arsenio and Uncle Tom and all of these things. It sounds familiar, don't it? Didn't he do the same thing with Tyler Perry? So anyway, he's like, "You know what? I'm not finna go back and forth with Spike Lee, man." Because there's other people, it's the bingo long circus, and other people gonna prey on that, they using that as the gas. And we're not gonna let that happen. So he backed out, genuinely, like a true professional human being should do. This is what they did. And without rhyme or reason, they just were attacking him. So because they're gonna see each other at events and parties, it was some award show somewhere, and it was like years later, about 2 years later, they ran into each other, and during that time they was speaking, and about what had happened, and she was like, it didn't matter. She's like, it was my fault. I shouldn't have went as far as I did. It's over with. I still love you and everything else. And you are friends with my friends. So she's like, let's just, be civil. So she came back on the show in like the late 90s or something and did the show, and then they were all cool because it was all this big hoopla about the first time she was on the show. So it's gone down in history because Rosie O'Donnell was hanging out with Madonna previously. So Man, I used to love. I used to love waiting up because I used to. That was the last thing I saw before I had to go to bed. Was the Arsenio Hall show. Then I'll go pass out and gotta get up in the morning and go to school. So the only thing we had was Arsenio Hall. That was the last thing. And you just go on to sleep when that go off. Because basically wasn't nothing good on. So it was just best to go to bed. I'm trying to think, is that water coming in my house or outside? The heck is going on around here? I can't get a piece of sleep, man. Anyway, I'm out. Thank you for listening to the video. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the notification button, and select all. And definitely, if you want to support the page, you can hit up my Cash App. Carcino is my name on the Cash App. And definitely, if you want to check out the Patreon, Carcino for Life on the Patreon. You know, I appreciate everybody who has been supportive to us. Peace. Oh, yeah, you can like it too, the video. That's free.